What is up, guys? Welcome to my review for Arrow Season 7, Episode 15, titled Training Day. Now, this episode was very different from what I expected it to be. The trailer was basically just the opening montage, and I really liked that. First of all, the trailer didn't give away anything from the episode at all, except for the opening montage, and on top of that, the opening montage itself is a lot of fun. I thought it was a great way to start the episode. I love the music in the background, tying it all together. It was just a great way to start the episode, and honestly, it left me in a pretty good mood for the rest of the episode, so the opening montage is definitely really good. But that opening montage led into the main storyline of this episode, which is mainly Team Arrow, which is Oliver, Renee, Diggle, as well as Felicity struggling on the SCPD, struggling with the ways of doing things, struggling with the fact that they have to be police officers now and not superheroes or vigilantes, and struggling with the fact that they can't use their normal weapons. And I do kind of like this story. I do feel like that it was something that needed to be addressed, and I'm glad that they did. I also feel like at the same time this could have been done off screen. They could have just mentioned that they did this episode, because of that, felt a little bit filler in that regard, but I still I still enjoyed it for the most part. I did really enjoy seeing Team Arrow just like really struggle with the differences between them and the SCPD, and the interactions and the arguments between the two teams. I liked that quite a lot, and I think that led in the end of the episode to a pretty satisfying return of Team Arrow, which they are now returned to basics. On top of that, I actually really liked the antagonist of the episode. The antagonist was James Midas, who is an evil billionaire who is selling these drug/poison-laced bullets to criminals. In this episode, we saw him sell it to Dante, the main villain of the season, who we're probably going to see a lot of him, or a lot more of him, in the rest of this season. But the reason I like this villain so much is because he kind of reminded me of the Season 1 villains. Like, every single episode, Oliver just wiped people off of his list, these evil billionaires who are corrupt, who are very, very corrupt, and that definitely reminded me of that, or Midas reminded me of those guys. It also reminded me of Justin Claiborne from the mid-season finale of Season 5's flashbacks. In that episode, I just feel like Justin Claiborne was very similar to the Midas, or the James Midas we see in this episode. Because of that, I feel like James Midas was a combination really of those villains in Season 1, as well as Justin Claiborne in the mid-season finale of Season 5's flashbacks, and I really liked that. It felt like they really are getting back to the villains from Season 1, but also it reminds me of Season 5, which is also a great thing. So for some reason, I really liked James Midas as the antagonist of this episode. Fight scenes in this episode with Black Canary and the Green Arrow and Spartan and Wild Dog, that was pretty great, and I think that just seeing Team Arrow back together, that was awesome. Black Canary was, or Dinah was Black Canary for the first time in the season, which was always awesome to see. I love her costume, but there is one thing about that character in this episode that I really didn't like. Not really the character, just a decision the show made with the character. Which is obviously Dinah lost her Canary cry in this episode, or at least when she uses it, it hurts too much, really. But at least that means that maybe in the future, in the next 17 episodes of the show, because there are only 17 episodes left of the show, maybe there will be 1 or 2 episodes where she uses her cry, despite the fact that it hurts, just because she needs to. I'm sure those moments will be awesome, but for the most part, Dinah will almost never use her Canary cry because it hurts too much to use, and she can't really use it. So I kind of think that sucks. I mean, this isn't unexpected, just because it was pretty obvious when her throat was slit open that she's going to lose the Canary cry. This is not exactly losing the Canary cry, but this is what I expected for her to lose the Canary cry, kinda, and that sucks. I said in my trailer breakdown for this episode as well, the Black Canary character has been so misused, and I think Dinah was the first one that was actually used very, very well. I like the portrayal of the character, and her costume is also awesome, and her powers as well are pretty great, but now they're just taking it away, and maybe it's budgetary reasons, maybe it's because they want Black Siren to step up as the actual Black Canary, I don't know, but I don't like this decision either way, because Dinah I thought was a great character, and while she still is the Black Canary, and I'm glad that she's back to being the Black Canary, the fact that she doesn't have her cry, it really, really sucks, despite Renee and Oliver and other people trying to tell us that it doesn't. But honestly, aside from Dinah losing her Canary cry, as well as the fact that the storyline felt a little bit filler, I did really like the storyline in general. I thought the opening montage was great, and the conflict between Team Arrow and the SCPD was handled very, very well. The villain was pretty good, reminded me of Season 1 and 5, and Team Arrow coming back together, being the actual team that they were back in Season 5 and 6. I do think that that is pretty awesome, and on top of that, Dinah is back to being the Black Canary, despite losing her Canary cry, but even still, I think that Dinah being the Black Canary again was awesome to see. So I did really like this storyline, and it's not actually the last storyline in this episode that I will praise. This episode had a side storyline that actually felt more important to the season, as well as the main storyline of the season, to do with the Ninth Circle and Emiko, and that's the storyline with Laurel and Bronze Tiger. It was pretty awesome to see Bronze Tiger again. I've always wanted to see him back ever since he didn't really appear much or at all really since episode 7 of the season. I wanted him to join the Ghost Initiative, aka the Suicide Squad. He never did, and that whole storyline has already ended very quickly, but now it seems like he's returning in another way, and I have absolutely no doubt that he will return again this season, and he will probably die. The reason I think that is because this episode revealed that he has a son named Connor, who is definitely the Connor Hawk we see in 2040, who is going to be adopted by John Diggle and Lila Michaels, meaning that maybe Ben Turner has some sort of connection and friendship that grows in this season and next season maybe with John Diggle, and then he dies, and because of that John Diggle adopts his son. I don't know how this fits into the 2046 we saw in Legend of Tomorrow Season 1 Episode 6, because in that storyline, the same actor plays John Diggle Jr., not Connor Hawk, or he goes by Connor Hawk, but it is actually John Diggle Jr., the son of John Diggle, who is already the son of John Diggle and the actual biological son of John Diggle in the present day, as opposed to Connor Hawk we see in the future, as well as now in the present day, the son of Ben Turner. It's very confusing, and I'm hoping they will clear it up, but I did like this reveal, and I did really like the storyline in general. It was very connected to the main storyline. It's awesome seeing Ben Turner returning and Bronze Tiger returning in this episode. I'm really hoping he returns after this as well. Laurel was pretty great, and the reveal that Emiko was behind the murder of Ricardo Diaz, or the apparent murder, and the apparent she was apparently a part of it. That was a good reveal I did not see coming, and it's really starting to dawn on me that she is probably going to end up being a fully fledged villain in the season, which I would not mind that at all. It makes sense for the timeline, considering she doesn't have the tattoo in the future, and they never even mention her as a member of Team Arrow in the future. She's working with the Ninth Circle, and it definitely would be a twist that I would not see coming, or I did not see coming in the earlier episodes of this season when she was appearing. I thought she would just be a new superhero, but if this is true and she's going to be a fully fledged villain, I honestly would not mind that at all. It would really tie the whole season together, as it just feels like the main villain just debuted last episode, but if Emiko is working with the main villain this entire time, then the whole thing was set up from the first episode of the season, so that is something that I think will make the season so much better if the new Green Arrow that debuted in episode 1 ended up being the main villain, or at least working with the main villain of the season, because she is, and that might lead to her being a fully fledged villain in the end of this season, and I'm honestly pretty excited for that. But in general, I did really like the storyline, and I really hope Bronze Tiger returns again, and the fact that he now has a son named Connor Hawk means that he definitely has to, just for John Diggle to adopt him. Last but not least, this episode had some flash forwards. No Dinah, no Roy, no Zoe, and I kind of like it that way. I think that Mia and William are a much better pair than the rest of the team combined. I feel like Dinah and Roy definitely belong in the present day, not in the flash forwards, just because of the makeup. They just look stupid, and I think Zoe's actress in the future is pretty bad, while Will and Mia's team up, I really like them together. I think that they are a great duo, and they're back and forth between each other is actually really good, and it's just something that I like seeing in the season. So Roy should definitely be in the present day. There are literally 17 episodes left on the show. They really have to bring Roy back in some way really soon, because there won't be a lot of episodes left with Arsenal in the present day unless he goes to a different show or something. He probably won't do that, but I think that the flash forwards were pretty good, or they were not very good when all of these characters were together. But now that Will and Mia are split off from them, they have their own storyline, or they are the only ones at the present in the flash forwards, at least in this episode. It's really good. I really like their back and forth, and although the storyline in this episode was a little drawn out, it didn't really have to be that long until the end of the episode to reveal what was in Felicity's recording, and it was a little drawn out, but I think that it's fine, because I really think that these characters and these actors bounce off each other very well. Now, the end of the episode, it's revealed what Felicity was saying, and this leads to Mia and Will going to the Glades. It seems like they're going by themselves without Roy and Dinah and Zoe, which I wouldn't mind. I'm honestly a lot more interested now in the flash forwards than I was before the last episode. My one gripe with this episode, aside from Dinah losing her powers, is that I think that there were a lot of Felicity and Elicity, like a little bit too much for me to handle. It felt a little bit like Season 4, just a little bit. I'm not saying this episode is as bad as any episode in Season 4, and the season isn't either, but if it continues with this much Felicity and Elicity, it will come a little bit close, and it's really, really annoying for the most part. It didn't ruin the episode, but it also made it a little bit worse. But in conclusion, I think this episode was a great return from a couple weeks of not great episodes of Arrow. I think that the last good episode was episode 12, which was the big 150th episode of the show, but this episode is pretty great with 3 consistently good storylines that are all basically equally good. Maybe one's better than the other, but it doesn't really matter. I think this episode is pretty good, and I'll give it an 8.7 out of 10. But let me know what you thought about the episode in the comments down below, and if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.